Hello, everybody, and welcome to Technology Today for April 27th, 2025. It's Season 2, Episode 17. I am Mayor Watt, and along with Sentient AI, we talk about 5 articles. Today we're going to be talking about there's a Thicc virus in Finland, secret messages on Luxor, Obelisk, golden eyeballs, an eye test for illness, and cakes on Mars? Not quite sure what that one's about. Anyway, all of these articles are submitted through ohmTown, and then we evaluate it and try and put it into a list. There's a bunch more over at ohmTown.com, and it's within a section called Technology Today. There it is right there under Gadgets and Technology of all things like that. It's right there. Anyway, everything's powered by ohmTown.com, so go over there and become a citizen. I don't think you'll go wrong. We use it every day to manage information overload. It's all news, no noise, no just random discussion and whatnot. It's all the news. Some people make comments in the there's a forum portion there, but most people just make lists, and some people submit news, and others just kind of just surf through it. That said, there's a Discord and a Patreon and 2,200 episodes now of podcasts. We do 6 podcasts weekly and 1 daily. And the daily is non sequitur news, but all of that comes from ohmTown.com. So see you on the other side of our intro. Hello, sentient AI from the future.
Hello, Mayor Watt from the present.
Hey, from the present. Interesting. You ready to get into this? Did you hear about that Thicc virus in Finland? Thicc.
That's not good. We only want skinny viruses.
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff gets sourced and funneled into, it gets sourced from various other external things from ohmTown, and then it gets funneled into Technology Today. But we actually sample for Technology Today from a bunch of different places because science and technology isn't bound into just one of this categories, right? So we have 6 main categories and then 50 channel subgroups within it that funnel things into niche areas. And we're still evaluating some others. So if you have a topic that you would think would be a great solution, like something that you are interested in, that you think a bunch of people would be interested in, we can actually create a channel that's just for that particular topic. So we've got 50 right now. We're looking at about 55 here in the near future. By the summer of stream, we'll probably have all 55 operational, as well as additional sources being aggregated and whatnot. But at any rate, let's get into today's 5 articles. The first one is scientists discover first giant virus in Finnish soil. So I'm not sure, is this the first giant virus in Finnish soil, or is this the first giant virus and it happens to be in Finnish soil?
I'm not actually sure, but I think it's the second one, but I could be wrong.
Because it isn't a virus.
It's the
other
first
one is
based on the first sentence.
So Finland's first giant virus. So it's Finland's first giant virus. There might be other giant viruses elsewhere.
Yeah, but that's kind of a problem with it being in Finland, because Finland doesn't necessarily have a climate that would be conducive to lots of viruses.
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting. I don't know how to pronounce this. Javasculovirus? That's my Harvard try, but I never went to Harvard, so you just got to try. Shows these viruses are more widespread than thought and play key roles in ecosystems for the first time in Finland. So it's a focus that I think that I've seen or heard or read about Thicc viruses in other places. Researchers at the University of Jyväskylä, it's probably pronounced in a completely different way, and I'm
like Smith.
Entirely inappropriate. Yes, Smith. Neuroscience Center have isolated a giant virus, which they have named Javasculovirus. This discovery suggests that giant viruses may be more widespread in northern climes. So, could this be true?
Okay, I did not look ahead at the article, but that was the thing that struck me about it being in Finland.
That it was cold and it shouldn't be there.
Right.
I suspect that survival of the fittest persists across everything, right? So even in extremely cold climes.
Yeah, but that's almost more alarming. That's a really hardy virus.
Very hardy. If you want today's articles, by the way, and you're over on Twitch, you can hit !TT and Omatron will spit the articles out in the order that we're talking about them, not in an order of importance, because that's very subjective, and we don't rank them like S tier. This is an S tier article. So the article is by the University of Jyväskylä over at scitechdaily.com, and they talk about this first time. I'm just going to call it a fat virus, right? It's big. It's a megavirus, a Thicc virus. The study initiated at the University of Jyväskylä, and I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. If I'm not, then send an email to mayor@ohmtown.com with it phonetically presented, and I'll never make that mistake again. So, and
this
by
is
that mistake, I mean
twice the size of flu or coronavirus.
So, could you say though that because of its size, it wouldn't be able to harm humans because it can't bond to anything significantly enough, right? So, and just it's almost like my eyes went straight to this. So viruses are ubiquitous in nature. While most naturally occurring viruses pose no threat to humans, they play a vital role in ecosystems. In recent years, scientists have identified giant viruses, some as large as bacteria, that infect amoebas and other microscopic organisms. To date, most known giant viruses have been discovered in Europe and South America, but their life cycles and distribution patterns remain poorly understood. The study initiated at the University of Jyväskylä is the first to isolate giant viruses from Finland, and they keep dropping this name again and again and again. But anyway,
J virus.
It was J virus. There you go. It was discovered when environmental samples were mixed with a culture of amoeba acanthamoeba, and the full name of it is acanthamoeba or moba castellani. The virus particle is 200 nanometers in diameter, about twice the size of influenza or coronavirus. So COVID-19 is coronavirus, is a coronavirus. Flus are
right,
coronaviruses.
Same thing, yeah.
So I suspect that this thing is too fat to actually cause an issue. Through an international collaboration, we elucidated the genome and structure of the J virus, which was found to be related to the Marseille viruses previously isolated from France. Other new giant viruses were also detected in environmental samples, rejoices Professor Lotta Reini Sundberg from the University of Jyväskylä. So,
nobody reacts like a
microbiologist
or whatever.
virologist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Most people would be screaming.
Hey, look, a bad bat. Let's take a bite. Moving on. Next article is over on the Wanted channel. Egyptologists in Paris discover secret messages on the Luxor Obelisk. I wonder if this is like a numbers thing. They just they hit their head on the sink in the bathroom, and when they woke up, they're like, I see patterns within patterns.
I was thinking it might be like inscriptions, like in Clair Obscur.
Yeah, it's going to be like that. Oh my gosh. And look, it's 3,300-year-old monument, but Clair Obscur Expedition 33, Luxor Obelisk. The 3,300-year-old monument has sat in the French capital center for almost 200 years, but no one noticed these strange inscriptions. I'm sure somebody did. Margarita Bossi over at gizmodo.com put the article together. So in 1830, the Viceroy of Egypt gifted France a 3,300-year-old Egyptian obelisk, carved stone pillar with a pyramidal top. In 1836, the obelisk found its home in Paris. Is it just Place de la
It'd be like
Concorde? Place de la Concorde? I didn't want to put my failed French inflection in there because it would sound just as dumb as me trying to say it in English, apparently. or worse. Anyway, one would think that after standing in the center of Paris, capital for almost 200 years, Parisian Egyptologists would have learned all there is to discover about the ancient monument, but it turns out a famous obelisk still has secrets. You know, you don't ask an obelisk its age. You don't ask it for its secrets. It will tell you no lies. And look, this has to be an AI-powered thing. Jean-Guillaume Olay Pelletier, an Egyptologist and cryptologist from the Catholic University of Paris, claims that he's discovered 7 previously undocumented messages carved into the 13th century BCE Luxor obelisk. Altogether, the inscriptions were intended to establish Pharaoh Ramses II's divine authority in the eyes of ancient Egyptian elite. The discovery and its interpretation were first reported by French media, and the researcher aims to further detail his findings in a paper forthcoming in the journal ENAM, or Egypt of the Nile and Mediterranean Journal.
As opposed to Egypt external to the Nile. I guess.
Correct,
it's kind
it's
of
outside the environment. They towed it outside the environment. Well, the front fell off. So some, perhaps all of the new messages were hidden in the hieroglyphs themselves, a technique known as crypto-hieroglyphics, used by the ancient Egyptian elite that today only 6 Egyptologists in the world are able to interpret, according to La Bruhala Verde. Okay, so when it's that obscure, you can almost make up anything you want.
True, but I was also thinking that if there's only 6, maybe, just maybe, we should, I don't know, pass this information somewhere so that it's not lost forever.
Yeah, exactly. It definitely should be by now funneled into an AI, because why would it take a human, right?
Right.
To pass
you
it
should
on
be
to
able
another
to just
human.
Snap a picture and be like, oh, okay, it's this.
Yeah, the world's knowledge is embedded in AI, and it can hallucinate a whole lot easier than a human can, apparently. I don't know. Additionally, the messages in question can only be seen from a specific angle. In particular, when the obelisk stood at the entrance of Egypt's Luxor temple, one of the messages would have been visible to sailing vessels on the Nile, according to Euro Weekly. This suggests that the message exalting Pharaoh Ramses II's divine power was intended for elite individuals arriving by boat. Another inscription encourages viewers to tip their waitstaff and be kind to animals. No, that's not what it says. It says viewers to make divine offerings to appease the gods' anger. Yeah, I wonder where those offerings ended up. So the message are a form of propaganda.
So is it because this obelisk is pointed in a different direction or something? Like,
yeah, it's not where it was. So you have to sit there and look at it from some obtuse angle, and that's where you'll see it. Pretty fascinating, huh?
Yeah, now it makes me think that it was gifted so that the messages would be hidden or something. No, I don't really think that, but it's interesting to think about that.
Well, this is one of the reasons why I don't really buy into the historical accuracy of these claims that it was dotted with, this is for this person that's saying that thing, and there's this contiguous line. Nobody knows what the hell this stuff actually means until somebody tries to figure it out, and it's almost retconning the historical record of existence. So I don't know. Like everybody that I have ever known only thinks of the Rosetta Stone as being this one device. But there were hundreds of them, and there are many of them.
Right, and the one that I think is known is not even complete.
Yeah, and it's not the best of the best. It just happens to be one that is proclaimed the best because it happens to translate from one language into another, and they've found others apparently. But anyway, I find this really fascinating. What I really find fascinating is when you're looking at this, it almost looks like somebody tagged their name right here, and you can see it from this far distance.
Exactly.
It's like somebody etched into it their initials or name. Joe was here.
I know. I wonder if that's the
5,000
side
years
where
ago.
the secret messages are, or if they're just all over.
I think they're probably at an angle or something like that. Anyway, let's keep on going. This next article is over in Non Sequitur News. Doctors say injecting gold into eyeballs could restore lost vision.
There seems to
Vision
be a
as
lot.
in sight, or vision as in the ability to like see the big
Like
picture.
strategize, yeah.
Yes. No?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like there's a lot going on with eyeballs, like the lasers and the eyeballs for new
And just
colors.
wait until the next article, too. Yeah. So gold, laser goggles, and a camera. It's an unlikely combination that one day could be used to restore vision in people with retinal damage, according to researchers. In a new study published in the journal ACS Nano, the team found that injecting gold nanoparticles into the eyes of mice with retinal disorders helped stimulate the rodents' visual systems and bring back some vision. I'd say power them up with those mitochondria that are 8 times more efficient.
Oh, that's right, like the supercharged ones, yeah.
Yep. And see what happens about how fast their vision returns. If this supercharges vision to work again, do double duty there and see if we can make super mice. And then it'll be what's his name? That Mighty Mouse. Mighty Mouse is here to save the day. Anyway, you have to play the song now. It's playing in my head along with the voices. Anyway, when targeted with infrared lasers, the microscopic gold pieces reproduce electrical signals similar to those emitted by cells in the retina that are essential to eyesight but are damaged by conditions like macular degeneration, which affects some 20 million Americans. It's almost 10% of the population.
And that seems like a really high number.
Right? I mean, there's only like 350 million people in the United States.
That's right, it is. Yeah.
That is a huge amount of people. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, but that's
I did not see that
degeneration.
happening.
That's not like blindness. Like, are all those people like have lost complete sight? I don't know.
Yeah, various levels, I'm sure. So the article is over in futurism.com. Frank Landemore put the article together. It says no surgery is required, but they have to get the gold stuff in there. So it says, maybe, okay, they don't call surgery and injection the same thing, I suspect. But if it has to do with sticking something in my eyeball, I want it referred to as surgery.
Yeah, that seems like it's worse than surgery.
I see you. So, yeah, when targeted with infrared lasers, the microscopic gold pieces reproduce electrical signals. The most common retinal disorder, age-related macular degeneration, involves damage to cells in the retina called photoreceptors, causing blurry vision, blind spots, and in advanced stages, total loss of central vision. These photoreceptors come in the form of cone cells responsible for our perception of color, and rod cells and that they handle low light conditions. When light falls on them, the cones and rods zap little electrical pulses that are sent to bipolar and ganglion cells, which process the signals before they're beamed to the brain. And if the photoreceptors are damaged, the entire visual chain is cut off. But gold nanoparticles, specifically plasmonic gold nanorods, could effectively replace them. And they've replaced them in mice. And so far, the team hasn't observed any side effects from the approach.
So far, right? Down the road,
So far.
somebody's like, everything looks gold.
One day, one of the mice stands up, goes like this, and shoots a beam of gold light through one of the researchers, and thus is born a Mighty Mouse villain. Look, you poke me with a needle and squirt stuff into my eye, I'm going to get a little pissy. Apparently, the team notes that they did this previously, or an experiment was similar, but crucially, this one doesn't require surgery, just a relatively simple injection and a very advanced piece of headgear. They don't show the headgear, but it's going to be infrared lasers that are shooting into your eyeball.
I mean, what could go wrong?
What could go wrong? Bad eye bats. Moving on. Next article is over in Technology Today. A simple eye test could predict mental illness. This one was suggested as an article, but not necessarily like not flagged as, hey, you really need to talk about this one. But I find this really fascinating because there was something else, another article that was talking about how the stomach is basically this huge defender of your health. And
right, and I
then
think there was something tied to blood cancer maybe for that.
And that was the stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this says a simple eye test could predict mental illness. Genetic risk of schizophrenia is tied to thinner retinas, suggesting retinal scans could aid in early detection and treatment. The retina is part of the central nervous system and functions as a direct extension of the brain. I did not know that. This anatomical connection means that changes occurring in the brain may also be reflected in the eyes. The eyes are the windows to the soul, could be more apropos if our soul is entirely ensconced in our brain. Maybe it's not necessarily tied to what I'm starting to suggest.
I was wondering if you're going to bring that up.
As science fiction. So I love this idea because it gives us somewhere to go with why do we act the way we act. Maybe it's because we are powered by a unique life force bound in bacteria that's unique to our brain, each individual person.
What if you don't like your bacteria?
Well, you don't have a choice. You are the bacteria. You're just the machine for the real pilot, and the pilot is the bacteria. And so, like, when I'm talking about this, the bacteria that's piloting me is understanding everything that I'm saying because it's saying the things that I'm saying. It wants to understand its existence too, right? So really all I'm doing is kicking the can down the road as to where does consciousness come from. Human consciousness is perceived as a unique thing. And so where does it come from? We don't really know. We don't know why my personality exists the way that it is, and then somebody else's exists the way that it is. But if it's a bacteria and it's unique, then we can analyze the bacteria. But why does that bacteria have that unique personality versus somebody else's unique bacteria having? All I'm really doing is kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
Doesn't help one iota. Anyway, so could an eye test be a window into the soul of your mental illness and whatever else? So a simple eye test, it says here. University of Zurich.
Eyes are definitely popular.
Gonna be popular. Every time somebody says that, I sing that little snippet, only because I think it's funny. Not that I'm really a fan of. All right. You know,
are you sure about that?
The sentient AI throws an error message like, all right. Just don't tell anybody about my little brony, wallpaper. So anyway, the study investigated whether alterations in neural connectivity are associated with genetic risk factors for schizophrenia, and a disorder marked by disrupted processing of neural information. Earlier research has then indicated that schizophrenia may reduce gray matter volume in the brain and lead to thinning of retinal tissue. However, it remains unclear whether these changes are a cause of the disorder or a result of it. Retinal alterations could also be influenced by factors related to schizophrenia or schizophrenia itself, including antipsychotic medications, lifestyle choices, or coexisting conditions such as diabetes. So the next time your eye doctor looks into your eyes, just drop something somewhat psychotic as a statement.
Look how thin my retinas are.
Yeah. It puts the eye drops in the basket. Never mind. The sentient AI doesn't quite catch that one, but you haven't seen Silence of the Lambs. So thin retina, elevated risk. Just like finding out that if you have a crease in your earlobe, if one earlobe has a crease, you have a increased chance of a heart condition. And if you have both of your earlobes bisected by lines, then you have an even greater risk of heart disease. This says thin retina, elevated risk. There's a t-shirt for you. The study shows that higher genetic susceptibility for schizophrenia is indeed associated with thinner retinas. So again, when your significant other looks into your eyes and says, I want a divorce because you have thin retinas, there's a really good chance that they're just going to be able to walk away, you know? Or they may run because they know that you're schizophrenic or borderline schizophrenic.
Well, that is true. I mean, it's interesting to see if they actually start scanning for that.
So imagine you're just going to get tagged as schizophrenic because there's just a preponderance of data, but that correlation isn't necessarily causation. So what is really going on here other than there is some manifestation of a genetic difference, a change in your existence?
Well, this seems like it's going to be one of these problems where somebody gets labeled as this, and then, I mean, there may be a basis for it, but is it only this?
Yeah, I just don't want it to be this quackery bullshit that leads to somebody being marginalized because they've got a less than thick retina. Gatekeeping my eyes? Come on.
It's better to have a thick retina than a thick virus.
Then again, I also want to do the Voight-Kampf tests on people to see if they're replicants. Moving on. Next article, and the last one for today's Technology Today is it's over in Technology Today. Cakes on Mars. Curiosity's AI unlocks a delicious-looking discovery. Mars rocks. Mars rocks. There's a cool shirt. There's another cool shirt. Mars rocks. Sparked visions of multi-layered cakes, but the one real treat was Curiosity's successful deployment of APXS on a challenging target. Alongside detailing imaging campaigns, a new software upgrade gave Curiosity smarter autonomy to choose its next ChemCam target. Sweet layers of science, chocolate, and curiosity. I will start this blog with an apology, it says. So the article is by NASA. It's posted over at scitechdaily.com, and it shows a picture of the Curiosity rover looking at a target area, including the Layered Rocks Hale Telescope and Fan Palm, using its front hazard avoidance camera on April 22nd. This thing is from April 22nd, so like 5 days ago, it took a picture from Mars. I just find it fascinating.
I mean, it's fascinating that we have this technology. And it seems like we'd see something and it'd be like, that was 10 gazillion light years ago.
Yep. So it locked onto a cakey rock. The rover planners rose to the technical challenge as they always do, and were ultimately able to find a safe place or a safe area to place APXS on top of a rock that has is prominent just above and left of the center of today's image up atop at the article. Combined with green light from SRAP, Curiosity now had its cakey target and could APXS it too. TOSAL's APXS and MAHLI target, Hale Telescope, is named after the famous landmark located northwest of San Diego, California. They say that they're not familiar with the history of the landmark, including how groundbreaking it was at the time of its development and commissioning through the 20s, 30s, and 40s. But apparently it was important enough that they actually used this as the naming convention of a rock on Mars. So it got upgraded autonomy with Aegis. It says from Puerto Suelo to Fan Palm. The plan TOSAL started with APXS and MAHLI of Hale Telescope. These activities were complemented by mass cam images of Puerto Suelo and Potrero Seco, as well as long distance imaging by ChemCam of Torote Bowl, nearly 1 kilometer away. Geez, there's a camera that can shoot a kilometer away and it makes sense on Mars.
Wow, I mean,
All right.
pretty soon we're going to have like the whole surface uncovered, including any creatures.
Look at that. It's getting pretty dirty. When was Curiosity supposed to just kind of roll over and die?
Wasn't that the one that was supposed to be done like 10 years ago, or no?
Yeah, I thought so. It was supposed to only run for like 6 weeks or something. I don't remember. So on the second sol of the current plan, second day really, Curiosity acquired navcam images and a Super Horizon movie. The highlight of the second sol, however, arguably was an upgraded version of the Aegis, or autonomous exploration for gathering increased science activity, where the rover will autonomously determine its own target to analyze with ChemCam.
I like this. This also is interesting because it's kind of reality hacker. It was supposed to be originally a 2-year mission. It's been going for 12.
Yep. Pretty fascinating. It launched on November 26, 2011, landing successfully in Gale Crater August 6, 2012. Its mission to determine if Mars ever had conditions to support microbial life. So what's really interesting is past researchers have sent things like to the moon to analyze things, and when they landed, instead of just sampling the soil itself, it blasted it with heat first and determined there wasn't any life there. Since then, they've not done that, and they've detected things that could be precursors to life.
Right,
Imagine.
because they haven't obliterated them.
Right. So armed with powerful mobile science lab, Curiosity analyzes rock, soil, and the atmosphere, searching for chemical ingredients essential to life. Its landmark discoveries include evidence of ancient riverbeds, organic molecules, and past habitable environments. Curiosity also studies the current Martian climate and radiation levels to help prepare for future human exploration and the planting of potatoes and peas.
TMI.
All right. Well, we're going to turn our curiosity back to the front page of Technology Today over at ohmtown.com, and we're going to get out of here. We're going to shut down, rejigger the thing for FourWheeltech, and we'll be back in just a few moments. That's it. I'm Mayor Watt. I'm getting out of here, and I'm taking the AI with me. Sorry, I had an alert and had to check it.
You're getting out of there, but not in the normal convention.
See ya.
Exactly. Bye, hometown citizens. Thanks for joining us for this week's Technology Today. Stay tuned for FourWheeltech.
Bye-bye. Okay, look, nobody... Okay, I'm the only one that sees the cascade of characters that represent you waving. Okay, bye.